Hey, fellow theme park fans and moviegoers alike, we are going to be reviewing another movie that Dalton has asked me to watch so he could talk about. Holy crap. Hocus Pocus 2. Okay, before you're going to be doing most of the talking today, Dalton. Obviously, you've got more invested in this. So let me tell you guys where I stand as far as Hocus Pocus 2 is concerned. I was too old to like the first one. By the time the first one came around, I was a projectionist in a movie theater. I had my kids, had my wife. It didn't work for me. It just didn't. I'm sorry, guys. I know this is a big deal to you 90s kids, but to me, yeah, it's all right. Gail, how'd you like Hocus Pocus?
I don't even remember.
She doesn't even remember it. And I was like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, because the thing is, for people of my generation and younger, this movie is one of the movies that gets played every Halloween. Back when ABC Family did their 13 Nights of Halloween, that eventually became 31 Nights of Halloween. Why it wasn't 31 to begin with, I'll never know. But
13's unlucky.
And so on and so forth. But this is one that came on every year. Disney Channel, obviously, it's one of the biggest Disney Channel original movies ever.
This
so
movie
of course
on Disney Plus, Disney Plus is saying this movie's kicking all sorts of butt. All over town, as far as Disney Plus releases are concerned, Hocus Pocus 2,
it's a major hit,
blown up. So, hey, in all honesty, I hope kids are enjoying the hell out of this movie. Seriously, I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, but this is the thing, because it's something that my generation grew up with and has been. I would venture that there is not a single avid TV watching kid of the 90s or 2000s that doesn't have the first movie entirely memorized.
Yeah.
Because when you watch something every year in, year out for the first, 12, 13, if you're a normal person who stops enjoying Halloween at some point, or if you're me, literally up until this last year, I've been watching Hocus Pocus, and we'll watch the first one.
I'm sure you will.
Again this year.
For as much as I say, I might put it on as well. I got to say this though, it's not a complete loss. The original Hocus Pocus and this one both have things I enjoyed in them. And for as much of a nut bar as she is, Bette Midler is one hell of a talented woman.
Yeah.
You got to admit all of this before you keep going. And she has proven to be a nut bar recently. But overall, when I got to say, it's a great cast. Just the three of them alone, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy, and Bette Midler, incredible cast. They're a lot of fun to watch.
And they bring the old school Sanderson Sisters energy back to the fore.
One of the things I like, there is a change. Kathy Najimy's mouth is now on the other side. And I read an interview and she says, I just can't do it on this side. I got older. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So they include, sorry, they're leaving the room and my bird's getting excited because he gets to go outside. But Kathy Najimy does an interview, and she actually said that she couldn't do it because she got older. And so they put in a scene where Bette Midler slaps her, so she's talking out the wrong side of her mouth. And I thought, oh, okay, that was clever. It was one of the few times that I actually laughed. I actually laughed at it. So,
and for all of it's been 30 years, that does need to be kept in mind. They do an amazing job recapturing that same spark of what made them enjoyable in the first movie.
Yeah. So,
however, that being said, there's a lot of. This movie is one of those death by 1,000 paper cuts movies where the first time I watched it, which I watched it at 3 a.m. on the 30th of September when it came out because I wasn't going to go to bed without watching it.
And I watched it.
I liked it. I liked it fine upon its first watch. And then, cursed be me that did so, I started thinking about it. And things started to slowly go down and down and downhill from there.
My initial message to you about how I was feeling watching this was my optic nerves are now strangling my brain to try to save it. They are trying to put it out of its misery so it doesn't have to watch all of this this film. It's not great, to say the least. I actually prefer the first one over this one. There's a lot of problems, but there are a couple of scenes. That one, and later in the movie, they get into a house. They're wanting to find this girl or a candle or something like. I forget. They're always chasing one or the other through this movie. And Bette Midler goes, "Okay, spread out." And Kathy Najimy and Sarah Jessica Parker both kind of spread their arms. Jessica does a split and all that. And Bette Midler doesn't say anything. She just looks at him, and it's the look, and it's the fact that they let that joke just lay there and let the audience figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
While Bette Midler's just like, you know, I thought that was funny as hell. Because a lot of this movie is not that subtle. So to have that good.
Yeah, okay. Let's actually get into it. So we start with a flashback of the Sanderson sisters when they were younger, and Winnie is just turning 16, which is important for plot point reasons, because apparently that's when witches get their powers now. Now, the eagle-eyed among you, or the memory-possessed among you, will remember that in the first movie, they actually leaned in a little bit to the medieval conception of witchcraft, whereby they had to sell their souls to get their powers. But that will be memory hold and never mentioned again, despite all the times when it really should have been in this movie. Because before, those of you that know will know that Winifred got her book from the devil, apparently. No, in this one, she gets it from an elderly witch who lives in the forest outside Salem for some reason now. Also, there's a line in the Winifred refusing to get married portion of the flashback where they very unsubtly go, "How dare you speak that way to a man?" And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to bring too much real world history into this because, you know, alternate universe Disney cartoon thing.
But then again, it's also at a time where, look, let's face it, it wasn't exactly equal back then. But
well, it wasn't.
But
good
women were respected, and they would often chastise their husbands because they are the husbands, and so forth, so on.
Yeah, and so on and so forth, and there was no massive prohibition against women not getting married. Like there wasn't some kind of, like, they even referenced in the first movie, in a little line of dialogue, Winifred pretends they're spinsters for a minute, and then of course Mary and Sarah completely ruin it because they're gonna ruin every scheme that she has, right, because that's just how this works. But so, yeah, there would have been no like obsessive preoccupation with you must get married or you're defective or something.
It was kind of jarring to hear that, especially now, because we're just hearing it everywhere, even when it doesn't belong. I gotta say straight up though, I actually like this part of the movie was my favorite.
The one with the child actors and the flashback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the flashback.
I didn't mind it. It was good.
Had it been some sort of prequel and we got to see actually
how they be essentially a origin story for the Sanderson sisters.
and then their first downfall and all that kind of stuff, I think I would have enjoyed it based on the writing of that scene. And once again, there were, like you said, there were some problems, but overall I kind of dug that. When we get to the modern times, and that's the thing. So the sisters go off into the woods because puritanical, so-and-so be puritanical, and then they find this elderly witch living in the middle of nowhere, and that's where she gets the book from now, because we can't actually reference the one kind of edgy thing we referenced in the first movie. And then it cuts to modern day Salem, where there are these three young girls who, because, you know, it's Salem, are
are actually into witchcraft and
Then
so on
why
and so
not?
forth.
Yeah, you're right. It's Salem, so it kind of makes sense. I mean, I
I,
like
I
pumpkin
mean,
pie.
it's
I'm
the
from
witch
Florida.
capital of the Americas, at least. So
I'm in Florida. I'm down the street and around the corner from Disney. I just so happen to be a Disney fan. It's not
yeah,
a just so happen to be
yeah,
either.
yeah, why not? And
This is our religion down here almost. So
yeah, and in Salem, it's the two notable things that happened in Salem history were everything related to the witch trials and the fact that pirates would occasionally use Salem as a supply port, and and both of those aspects of its history are major draws for tourism and everything else. So why not?
So there's a big festival going on that night, the night we meet our heroes, and we find out the heroes that the three girls, there's three girls, two of them are a little bit closer than one who just kind of spread off. It's that story. Oh, but then
yeah, one of the girls decided to become normal and more popular. Now, mind you, in the first movie, it seemed like everyone was on board with the whole witch atmosphere, and Max, the main character of the first movie, was the odd one out because he wasn't into Halloween or witchy stuff. And yet now they're seen as the outcasts because they're into the witch stuff.
So
never mind that even just in this generation, that's not a thing really anymore, because new agey stuff is more on the rise now for this generation than in like the 60s. And of course, again, it's Salem, so why
do you think that the arrival, because in universe this movie doesn't ignore the first film, and they even
I know they're all aware that 30 years ago the sisters may have actually come back.
Do you think it might have been a case of like Nightmare on Elm Street? We don't talk about Freddy because Freddy brings fear, Freddy gets powerful. So Salem may have kind of curbed the witchcraft stuff off. So nobody goes search. Hold on, let me finish and then you talk. Then that way nobody searches for the black candle. Nobody actually, they're trying to make it seem like it was all myth and kind of bury it. So this
we're not sure this happened, so everyone just shush.
And so the parents not wanting another Salem because they were kids at the time, or at least they were young adults at the time in the 90s, and now their kids are all grown. You want to kind of silence it so the kids aren't as curious and go out and try to find the Sanderson sisters.
Except a few things. The one main other like teenage character that we get exposed to is this guy who I think the movie is trying to insinuate that he bullies them for pointing out that they're into all that witch stuff.
Yeah, until the end you find. By the way, spoilers.
And that doesn't really work because number one, they self-identify as it, so you would think they wouldn't be ashamed of it.
Well, it's one thing to know who you are. It's another thing to get berated every day.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
You find out that this guy was using words that he didn't consider insults. Like I will always call us weirdos and geeks because, well,
because
we're at least
it's
geek,
better
right?
just to own it and self-awareness.
Besides, there's nothing wrong. I've been doing this forever.
I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're not going to make me feel bad for being an adult doing what he likes. It's just not going to happen. It's not like it's illegal.
No, but the other problem I had with this character is the things that he says that we're supposed to take as bullying really, really aren't bullying. They're really just friendly. Like, I can genuinely see a friend making this as friendly banter, and that's why one of the parts of the movie I dislike later is when they basically shame him for doing it, and then he's like, oh, I didn't realize. That was yet another one of those, the modern way of doing things is being forced into this so heavy-handed that I could
because ultimately he really should have called them out on it. No, I'm sorry, you never talked to me about it, you never asked about it. I'm not saying this stuff is an insult.
I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying.
Are you saying we could have been friends all of this time without? You're right. They brought in the new sensitivity of, if anything else, with these kids. There's also the guy with the one hand from that show. Goodness gracious. Lucille, what's his name? You know what? I hate it when I forget shows' names, but he plays the mayor of the town. He's also the father of one of the girls, and there's this big thing about Winifred wanting to find the mayor, so she's possesses part of the
because
town.
She has a personal vendetta against this guy's ancestor.
Yeah, the whole
shunning her
bloodline.
from Salem,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, it sounds like another case of the Hollywood bubble. They're disconnected from the rest. It's not overbearing in this. I think the problems I have with this movie isn't so much the modern politics thrown into this film or anything.
Yeah, there are bits and pieces of it, and they do
bad,
kind of pull me out, which is why I mentioned them.
It's just some bad writing at times, and this, if I was a kid, I'd enjoy the hell out of this film. And I think that is something I should say. This reminded me a lot of this. I don't know how to say this. Okay, Hocus Pocus was the kind of movie I would be raised with. Mm-hmm. They were not afraid to scare the shit out of us.
There was an edge to it.
In the 70s and the 80s, some of the kids' films, they weren't afraid to scare us. And I liked Hocus Pocus, even though it was Disney film aimed at kids. There were some elements that were quite scary.
Like I say, they
not so much in Hocus Pocus 2.
You sold your soul to the devil thing.
Yeah, not so much in Hocus Pocus 2. Hocus Pocus 2, there's no scary parts. Not once do the Sanderson sisters really seem like a threat. They're more.
And yes, they were goofy in the first one, but there was also they are literally planning on sucking out the souls or life forces of an entire town.
And I believe they would do that here. I never felt anybody was in true danger. You know, there was. And by the way, I saw the first one when I was 25, 26, whenever it was up, and now of course I'm 52. But I actually can see tone and all that kind of stuff in a movie. In this one, it's straight up Halloween Town kind of. Everything's comical. There's no real urgency to the movie until the very ending. Actually, we'll get to that, but yeah, I wish the tone was just a bit darker. Than it was. Anyway,
let's also get into the, I guess, fourth major dramatis personae of the evening, which is a witchcraft shop or magic shop owner, not magic as in like stage magic, but magic as in magic shop owner, who's also a massive history fanboy of the Sanderson sisters. And that's part of the reason why I don't think your theory is correct. I don't think the town is trying to hush it up, because number one, that place is packed when he's giving like history lecture and everything. And
yeah, that's true.
They're leaning into the fact that in real life there are dozens of witch shops in Salem, because it is, witch mecca basically. So I don't think they're going that route. It might have been interesting had they gone that route, but I don't think they're going that route. But anyway, so long story short,
too late.
For reasons that I would like to call stupid, but I'm not gonna lie, if this were me, I would fall for. I'm not going. Gilbert was kind of my favorite character in the movie because I found him kind of relatable.
Yeah.
He's a kid who he was a kid at the time of the original 1993 movie who saw the Sanderson sisters in flying through the sky, and from that point on in his life, he was obsessed with the Sanderson sisters particularly, but also magic in general. And he's the kid who, if you remember the post-credit scene of the first movie, there's a scene where someone walks into the cottage and the book's eye opens up and it starts looking around. We find out in this movie that was him, and that he actually looked through the book and learned a bunch of things about magic, and also learned the recipe for the Black Flame Candle, which is how they get around the fact that the Black Flame Candle had magic enough for one night and one night only, and it was spent in the last one. So how are they going to come back this time? Well, they come back this time because Gilbert studied the recipe of the Black Flame Candle and essentially made Black Flame candles his proprietary, like, the main gimmick of his shop.
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few. As a matter of fact, there's an end credit scene here where we see the cat kind of rest next to one. Yeah. The character I found most relatable was Sarah Jessica Parker, because like her, all I want to do is whatever anybody tells me and then devour the souls of children. So we're very simpatico in that. I do like the character.
Absolutely sure it's not because she's hot?
That too, and also I really don't like to be told what to do. So overall, this is basically the first movie again, where they're trying to get they're trying to get the sisters out while the sisters are trying to stay. I'm trying to.
They
I
have
just
one night unless
we're
they
already
can find some
21
MacGuffin
minutes into this review, so I'm trying to figure. Okay, we got to condense and just kind of go because we've got 9 minutes left to this thing. But I gotta say, I want to go and yes, we're gonna jump into this big climax that they have. And once again, I said spoilers.
Yeah, we're summarizing the entire movie if you haven't caught on.
And this is this is a very summary. There's obviously a lot more that goes on. At one point in time, they do need to find the mayor because Winifred wants to do something to him, and they have a spell. Now, we were talking about this backstage. In the original, they did "I've Got a Spell on You," which seemed apropos, as Dalton pointed out. It was not only a song that everybody recognizes, but it was actually what they were doing. So it made sense. This one was horrible because it was Debbie Harry's "One Way or Another." I'm gonna find you.
Here's the thing. There are actually two song sequences in this movie. One of which I felt worked, which is a rendition of a certain song with the word witch substituted for another word, such that the song
the B word, you could say,
the witches are back.
Disney. Yeah.
I hated it. I'm abstaining from swearing because
the witches are back. I
enjoyed it, but
Uncle Roger not like this song.
My first issue is it came right the heck out of nowhere. In the original movie, they had a reason to sing because they could put a fluence or a hypnotic spell on people who listen to their voices. But this time around, they literally pop up out of the ground and they're already in the midst of a musical number.
Yeah, it was like hello to everybody that nobody's in the room. It was a song for them. I think at some point somebody does ask, who are they singing to?
Yeah, my secondary problem is that they should have saved that song for the "we need to control a crowd full of people." So I jokingly called it the flash mob song when we were backstage because that's how they upgrade it.
A school edit of an edgy song. It absolutely, yeah. If you guys, well, you might be too young, Austin, but my daughters were definitely, when my daughters were young, when Dalton was young in the 2000s, Disney had Radio Disney. And what they would do is they would edit edgy songs. Like if it had a cuss word or maybe a phrase that was a little questionable, they would edit it out.
The child-safe version.
Yeah,
basically.
So, so you could actually listen to adult songs on Radio Disney. So it's like, I like big and cannot lie. You others can deny. When a girl walks in with in his mouth, you get it would sound like that a lot, but it was
censoring.
This is the way it was,
But this one I felt worked better because it's somewhat appropriate for like Halloween theming and also for the Sanderson Sisters. So that the Witches Are Back song didn't bother me because I felt it worked for them.
But one way or another. Okay, so here's what I think. One way or another. it's not about controlling the mob, which it should have been. It's about, hey, mayor, you don't know it, though. We're out to get you. Because the mayor has no idea that at this point, the Sanderson Sisters is back. So they're like,
Yeah, it's a descendant of someone who knew them, but he has no idea why they would have any issues with him, basically.
Yeah, and it turns out ridiculous. I do, however, like the scene with him because before the movie, like when we're getting set up and we're learning characters, the mayor is all about one thing, a candy apple. This woman makes handmaids. And I know this because when I was young, we had this, we would have a town meeting kind of thing. People brought their wares. You could sell stuff. Or feed people. And there was always this one old lady, I might as well say. She's probably only like 5 or 10 years older than I am now, but she used to bring her own peanut butter brittle that she made, and it was divine. It's like, I love peanut brittle, but nothing is.
But no other peanut brittle need apply after.
I haven't had this stuff, I haven't had this stuff in 45 years. I probably have elevated it, but yeah, this old lady had this peanut brittle that was really good, and so I understand you want. And the mayor, all he can talk about is, okay, so tonight I got to get my apple. Tonight I got to get my. I
want my freaking caramel apple, if you please. Yeah, basically.
And that's part of the thing. Look, I don't like this film. I can't recommend this to anyone who is not a child. I think kids are going to love this. I think they'll love the first one better because it's going to scare the crap out of them. But if you do have an overly sensitive child, and I'm not saying that as an insult because kids are different. Some kids like scary movies. I've got two. One loves scary movies, and one hates scary movies. One loves scary rides, and one hates scary rides.
It depends upon the individual child. Your results.
But the thing is,
vary.
I guess this is what we could say in praise of Hocus Pocus. They've got a movie for each. Like the kid who loves scary movies can like both, but if you have one that's a little bit more sensitive, this is the one for them.
But the thing is, I mean, I don't think there's any reason to watch Hocus Pocus 2 if you're not already a fan of Hocus Pocus 1.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you on the fact that it does require there is no moment where this is its own film without, like, you can watch, say you're a Star Trek fan. You don't have to watch Star Trek the motion picture to understand Star Trek 2.
You don't even have to watch the original series to enjoy TNG.
Exactly.
But that's
but Hocus Pocus, I think you will need. I mean, they're going to give you history, so you'll understand it. But I think if
they do a lot of exposition dumping and summarizing and everything,
you get a lot more out of it if you do know the original. I want to talk about the ending though, because I really liked the ending.
The humanizing of the sisters there.
This movie that I had not enjoyed as much as I did the first one, and I didn't really like the first one, kind of got to me because there's a scene and it's kind of like the Thanos thing. In order to get what you want, you have to sacrifice what you love.
Yeah. What thou loves most, thou shalt have to trade.
Right. So Winifred wants the power. She gets, ultimate power now. She will not die when the sun comes up. She's going to live forever.
But her sisters,
because the thing that she loves and cherishes most are the sisters. So they just dissipate, kind of like the snap. They kind of do that bit.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great scene. And
I also liked it because it didn't have to happen that way. If she had enough self-awareness to share the power with her sisters, they could have all stayed. But because she had a moment of hubris, if this power you want for your own without sharing it, then you'll have to trade the thing you love most for it.
Yeah, had she shared the power, then Austin saying, I wondered if I needed to worry about the Star Trek. No, watch the movies. They are their own animals. Granted, like everything else, if you know, the more you know, the more you get out of things. But in all honesty, the movies, except for Star Trek 2, doesn't really reference the past. In Star Trek 2, you don't need to have seen
You don't need to have seen the episode with Khan in it to understand.
I didn't even know when I saw
he
it. When I
hates
saw it
him.
when I was 12 years old, I did not know that Khan was from the TV series, even though I had seen the episode. So, anywho, back to the Sanderson sisters. So she's crying. She doesn't like the fact that her sisters are gone. She's worried.
Oh my God, what have I done?
And the girls are now the new coven. The three friends are now the new coven that owns the book. And so she asks a spell to reunite her with her sisters. And there's a good scene because they go about doing this. And then she looks around. She says, "My sisters aren't back." And she goes, "Yeah, the spell doesn't bring them back.
It takes you to them.
Sends you to them." And so according to the book, we're seeing the Sanderson sisters die.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a thing at the end that says maybe not, but
yeah. And the thing that I really liked about this that's unique to this movie, because there is and you're right, that scene does have a lot of heart, more heart than I was expecting for what I was fully expecting to be a soulless cash grab, but wasn't really. For all of its faults, there is actual care and actual heart put into this. But also, we see here them trying to fight the witches with magic. And we kind of got that a little bit in the first one when Allison, the girlfriend character from the first movie, reads a little bit of Winifred's book and finds that salt circles are protective against magic. So we kind of got a little bit of that. But this one, they take that and they turn it to 11, where it's essentially countering the Sanderson sisters' magic with their own magic. And I like that. The only problem I had with it was the one character who deserved to have some degree of that, especially because it's him who teaches the girls most of what they know, is Gilbert, is the character who...
You're right. He should have had some sort of skill.
And here's the other thing. He specifically tells them this herb, I believe they used Angelica, which is accurate to herbalism, so yay. But this herb, Angelica, cancels out curses, and then in literally like the scene after, Winifred puts a curse on him, so he has to do their bidding. And I'm like, you know exactly how to get out of this. You told them how to do it. Why the heck are you not availing yourself of the knowledge that you have already demonstrated to have?
They really, I think, were trying to steer into the girls can.
Yeah, the feminist witchcraft symbology.
I do agree with you. He should have had some skill. It could have been a case of witches are more powerful than warlocks or something like that. If it's your universe, play with it, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, this guy has devoted.
That's the thing. He was devoted to learning magic, so he should have had some skill.
And he's the one who made the candle, so obviously the candle works. It just needs to be a witch coming into her powers that does the spell. But the candle worked, the recipe worked, so clearly he knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. Why the heck didn't? And maybe they'll include him in a long post movie, but yeah, there was a little bit of heavy-handed witchcraft is a symbolism for girl power, don't you know, thing, and I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, we're past the 30-minute mark, which I prefer not to do, but yeah, what the hell? It's our channel. So sum up your feelings about the film. Give us your TV guide review.
There's a lot of flaws, and it will never reach to the heights or the edge of the first one. And if you're showing your kids this without having them watch the first one, what the heck are you doing? But there's heart, there's care, and there's, at the very least, the three main Sanderson sisters barely miss a beat, even though it's been 30 years, and they're all in their 60s or 70s now, which is, in and of itself, impressive.
Yeah, you can hear it in Bette Midler's voice. She's older, but once again, the woman can sing. The woman knows how to act. She's done quite a few good performances. She throws herself into Winifred. You could tell everyone is having a good time making
Oh
this
yeah.
movie.
Everyone is having a freaking blast making this movie, and by extension, we kind of have fun along with them. That's why
here's the thing,
I think I didn't mind this quite as much the first time I watched it.
But
yeah.
I'm telling you, on one hand, I keep talking about all this good stuff, and on the other hand, I'm telling you, I can't recommend this to people like myself who were an adult during, you know, when the first one came out. I can see adults. It's a nostalgia thing. I get it. But
Yeah.
I think for this movie, for me, is more fun to talk about than it is to watch. So
if Hocus Pocus was a large part of your childhood, or especially your Halloween every year, you'll get something out of this. Again, it's not going to reference the darker, cooler aspects of the first one. They defanged a lot of it, but they make up for it with heart. And again, for as long as it's been since the three of them donned the witch motifs, it's impressive how much they were able to drudge up that same energy.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm not recommending. Well, I'm recommending it to kids and to people with nostalgia very little, because I'm just about that much. And are you recommending or no?
I'm recommending, but I think I'd rather. I think you'd be better off watching the first one, or better yet, watching something like The Craft.
Yeah,
would be
or something on Disney Plus, like Nightmare on. That's a Christmas movie, kids. That's not a Halloween film.
It's both.
It's a Halloween. It's a Christmas movie. Okay. Anyway, guys, I knew that would get this. That's the big debate, right? Okay, so thanks a lot for hanging out with us, Dalton. Thank you for hanging out, but you know, I hate you for making me watch this film.
I still have a few of these on credit for getting me into She-Hulk. So
there you go. Okay, so yeah, once again, and thank you very, very much for watching. You kids have a great time and have a zippity doo dah day.
Cheers, guys.